Welcome back to Matters of Faith. Our subject now is spiritual healing with Katja Sündermann. She will explain to us how it works and who does it. Now, you've actually written a book about spiritual healing. So you did a lot of research on this subject in the field, in Syria and other places, I suppose. Now, before we talk about spiritual healing, could you explain to us the view of, the Islamic view really of health and disease?
The Islamic view is a very holistic view. It sees the human being as a whole. Of course, it differentiates between the emotional, the religious, the spiritual, the physical, the mental parts, but these different dimensions are very permeable. So they can influence each other. And if a person has a problem at one level, he can become sick at another level. So, for example, if a person has problems in the family, he can, on a very emotional level, he can become sick physically, or if he has problems in his belief, if he's far from God, or if he's going away, which is contradicting his religion, he can become sick. So, and also the opposite way. Maybe he has a problem, physical problem, and his soul or his emotional world can become sick. So it's a very open system, and it's also not finished by the body. It goes further. The human being is not a monad. He is not a unity. He's living in many different worlds. He has many relationships with other people, with God, maybe with spirits. So Islam doesn't see the human being as an isolated thing, as we do very much in the West.
Yes, it's quite interesting actually how nowadays there is a whole movement of alternative and holistic health, which recognizes the fact that many diseases start on the spiritual or emotional level that only manifest in the physical body much, much later. And there's of course the acupuncture and other kind of homeopathy, other kind of holistic healing methods take all this into account. And what I find interesting is that Islam had already had this view ever since the religion came into being. Even the Quran speaks about a healthy heart and a diseased heart. You know, those hearts, those are people with a diseased heart. And what does it really mean by that? People who go away from the religion, who have a moral problem, I suppose. So ethical and moral well-being was very much related to health, to actual physical health, right? Yes, and I find that quite fascinating. And if we go back into the history of Islam, you know, you can please perhaps tell us about physicians like Ibn Sina, who treated emotional diseases as well.
Right. Yes, they had very much this idea that many diseases can come from, can have another reason. For example, the love sickness is a very famous example. There are many stories that people become sick because they are separated from their beloved, or they cannot get the beloved. So they become sick and nobody knows what happened to them, and the family is sad, and they ask many doctors, and Ibn Sina or some other specialists came, and they asked the person a lot about his life, and so they found out that it was love.
Love sickness.
Yes. So
it's
in the Middle Age they had a very strong, they had much knowledge about these connections.
Yes, and they also used music as a therapy and storytelling and all different kinds of ways dealing with other aspects of just the physical body, but emotional and mental health. Now you did some research fairly recently in Syria. What kind of spiritual healing did you witness over there?
Yeah, I tried to find spiritual healers in Syria, and most of them came from Sufi orders, but there were also many normal Sunni Muslims who specialized in spiritual healing, and so the very Orthodox Muslims of the orders, they have their special tradition, which they have since centuries. But there are also many people who find new ways or who just come new to the tradition, search for a teacher, and yes, the interesting thing is that most people do the same stuff.
Like what? So, what do they do?
What they do, yes. In the center of the healing, there's the Quran. So most healers are healing by Quranic verses because they think that the whole Quran has a special power, barakah, it's a blessing power, and they also think that special verses or surahs of the Quran has special healing powers, or some verses are specialized on problems, so the healer has to know which verse he has to recite, and do
you remember an example?
Yes, there are, for example, 7 verses of healing. They are called the 7 verses of healing, and I think they chose them because they have the word healing. You find the word healing in these verses, and so they use them for many diseases. Or, for example, the last 2 surahs, Surah 113 and 114, they are used a lot against the evil eye or against sorcery, because these surahs are talking about these problems. So the healer chooses the part of the Quran, and he will recite it on the patient.
Why do you think people in the East seem to have this enormous spirituality, spiritual power, spiritual contacts, openness for this, and we here in the West, it seems to have gone lost, or people would even look down or call you crazy if you talk about it, laugh about it, as in the mild way. Why is that, do you think?
Yes, I think it's because of our history, the time of enlightenment, very big distance, and I think before we had the same things, not exactly the same, but in Christianity you find, especially in Catholic Christianity, you find very similar things.
Hildegard von Bingen was a great healer, and very spiritual lady.
Of course.
At the same time, and
and also in the spiritual sense, you use prayer for healing, or you have also expulsion of the evil, and so I think it's not really so special in Islam.
No.
It's only that it lasts until today, and people have that really strong belief. And here in the West, we got very far from these things.
Through the Enlightenment, when we separated
modernity and
God and the sacred away, and we emphasize rationalism and
right.
The
so there's no space for this kind of thing. So many sheikhs I met said they really admire, for example, modern sciences, the Western sciences, also Western medicine. The only deficit is that it lost the spiritual dimension.
Yes.
so that Western medicine sees some small parts of the body, but can't see the person as a whole.
Yes.
So, and that Western medicine, maybe it is able to cope with psychic problems, but not really. But with the next dimension, like the religious or spiritual dimension, it has really problems. So yes. The sheikhs said it would be a big problem.
Yeah, and sometimes the psychological, of course, is related to the spiritual.
Yes.
I mean, you know, if
yes.
people have, for example,
yes.
depression.
Yes, maybe because they lost contact to themselves and
yes, and
how
the
to
higher power up there, God, and taking a pill, you know, to make them happy, like
yes.
Prozac or something,
right, yeah.
will only last as long as you take it, and it's no true healing, no deep healing. It's just a mask, isn't it? Like a Band-Aid. And
yeah, that's another thing they say. Or not only they, I think there's also much criticism in the Western world about modern medicine, that only the symptoms are cured, but not the really problem.
yeah.
So
as a
sheikhs
summary,
try to understand the real problem about a person
and treat it the mental, emotional, and spiritual, as well as physical, and not just concentrate on only the symptoms.
Yes.
Well, this was fascinating. Thank you very much. I really appreciate both of your contribution today to Matters of Faith. And so that's it, another edition of Matters of Faith gone by. We had a glimpse of contemporary Islamic thought with Wilhelm Willeke, and an insight into spiritual healing with Katja Sündermann. Thank you for watching Matters of Faith. Take care. See you again next time. Goodbye.